Grace and peace. Welcome to another episode of the TBT Show. I'm Anthony Moten with my partner in crime, as always, Sean P. Aguilar, and I'm super excited about our in-studio guest today.
Yes.
I was just messing with her. She restored my hope in our generation, our culture again. She was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. Got her undergrad from Hampton University and moved here to Houston and received her law degree from Thurgood Marshall, Texas Southern University, and is now making some moves in Houston. And so I'm excited about her being here with us and sharing some of what she's already accomplished and then future goals with us. And so I'm excited to introduce to those that have been living under a rock and don't know her, Staci Childs. Thank you so much for being with us today, Staci.
Welcome. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. You can start by and again, anybody that lives in Houston should know your name by now. But to those that don't, just kind of tell us who you are, how you were raised, how you got to this point.
Sure. Okay. Well, I am really just an everyday girl. I'm still just an everyday girl who is very passionate about people that look like me and people that don't look like me, and making sure that people have as many opportunities as possible, because without education and a few people giving me opportunities, I wouldn't be sitting here.
Yeah.
I wasn't number one in the class. I mean, I was a good student, but I was involved in, a lot of different activities, but I was also one of the kids that talked too much in class. And some of the teachers didn't like that. So, shout out to my 10th grade world history teacher. I won't say her name because she might listen to this one day, but she knows who she is. I was kicked out by her and other teachers before because they didn't, like my personality, or they didn't cultivate the fact that I talked a lot. Right. Oh, she talks a lot. Maybe she'll be a lawyer one day. They didn't see that. But I did have good teachers. I did have, strong aunts and a mom and dad who really pushed me and gave me opportunities outside of the classroom that showed me that education can lead the way. And that's what led me to Hampton, one of the, if not the best HBCU in the United States.
Whoa.
And just going there, being surrounded by so much Black excellence, despite hearing you shouldn't go to an HBCU, that limits yourself. You won't really know what it's like to be in the real world if you go to an HBCU. That really defied all of what I had heard up until 12th grade. Going to Hampton was a wonderful experience. But for some reason, and this is a plug to all the college kids that may be listening, I was in a rush to get back to Atlanta. I was in a rush to get back to hot Atlanta. And I didn't really, I think, take the full advantage of Hampton. And when I came back to Atlanta, I just got caught up in not really major things, but just hanging around people that didn't have my best interests, and hanging around people that weren't as ambitious as I was. So I started, they say birds of a feather. That is true. Yeah. I started just hanging around the wrong people. And just after kind of not living up to my fullest potential for a few years, I'm like, okay, I got to do something different.
Yeah.
And I applied for Teach for America. And when they said yes, I'm like, oh, I have to go all the way to Houston. And I had thought about Houston when I was thinking about going back to Atlanta. I said, well, maybe I'll try Houston, but it was just too far away from home at the time. So in 2013, when the opportunity arose again, I'm like, okay, I'll take it, thinking that I would stay here 2 years, finish out the TFA program, and run back to Atlanta. But God definitely had other plans for me. And what Houston showed me was like, wow, kids are going through real stuff. Stuff that I thought I had it hard. That just opened my eyes to something completely different. And I'm like, kids shouldn't have to suffer in the classroom. School was my refuge. School is what healed me. School is where I had people that would listen to me when I felt like maybe my family would or wouldn't. School was everything to me. And I wanted that for kids, especially kids that look like us. And when I saw that wasn't the same, I was like, all right, I need to move around again. So that prompted me to go to Thurgood Marshall School of Law. But I always knew that education was in the purview of my mind and what I would do long term. And after my first year, I had the opportunity to work under the Obama administration on his education team. And I was like, oh, there are other people that care just as much as me. And I think that really did change my life because it just continued and it expanded my passion for education. So I've just been on that road since then. Right now, I am practicing law full time. I practice criminal defense law, mostly for young people. And what I'm realizing is, you know what, you wouldn't even be in front of me right now had you had more education on the K through 12 end. And I know I said that a lot on the campaign trail, but it's true. It's true. I'll tell you, I had one client, it was for a petty crime, and the client was like, I can't read.
Wow.
What do y'all expect? How y'all expect me to eat? Of course I stole something from HEB. Of course I did. I can't even read. So what jobs are open to me? And, you know, we got her tutoring and things like that. But if education is just not, if you're not thinking like that, I mean, the trajectory of your life could be a lot different. Absolutely. So I ran for State Board of Education. Obviously, I'm not from here. I'm the youngest person that was running in District 4, but turns out I'll be the youngest member in Texas. I didn't realize that. And that was very challenging for me. It was a little nerve-wracking, but I just kept that passion in the back of my mind. And I met people like Pastor Moten who was like, thank you, keep going. And that helped me along the way. And I don't see how people run for president or run for Congress for like years, because I was only running for 6 months and I'm unopposed in November. I don't see how people do that long term. But I was really inspired by the people in Houston. And Houston really did change my life for the better. So I'm like, I need to do something for the city as well. Because, I mean, it's just like my labor of love to a city that gave so much to me. And here we are. May 24th came, and now I'm your state board member-elect pending the election in November. And I'm out here wanting to make a difference still.
Yeah, absolutely. I was so excited, May. I think I don't even know. I think I text you like we won. I know you want to spell like we. You ain't did nothing. I was so excited. I really was. And then anybody that knows me knows that like my passion is is education, because I feel like education is what breeds into poverty. Our children are undereducated, and so ultimately they're unemployed. And even some other numbers that came out maybe a year or two ago, working with Dr. Harvey Clemens, and we were trying to do some things for HISD at the time. Even those young people that do graduate high school, graduate, and we're talking about top of HISD classes, read on the 8th grade level. And so when you get to college and a professor says on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class, on a Monday, read chapters 1 through 4, and we'll talk about it again Wednesday. And you can't comprehend what you read, then that you're not going to be successful and in college. And so it just breeds that you're always one step behind. And so it all starts with education. And so to meet Staci and to see her passion as it relates to education, for me, it renewed that hope that there are some young people that that care enough to reach back and make the situation better for the young people coming behind them. And so again, and then hearing her story, what she shared with us that Sunday, her upbringing, and I could I see myself and my kids in that upbringing, and how the collaboration between community, church, and school, like and it was parents that cared enough to make sure you did that kind of deal. So Staci, if you can just kind of speak to us about the collaboration, or how you see the collaboration between, not just it being school in and of itself, but the collaboration of community and church and school to make these kids. Because again, it takes a village to raise a child, and our culture, we've gone away from that.
Yeah, and I don't understand why. Because in terms of like Black folks, our DNA is communal. Yeah. Like we, even from, and not to make it too deep, but if you think about African origins, right, and people who are actually from the country of Africa, they're communal. They stand outside, right, and then we do those same things, and we're hanging out, and we know our neighbors. Right. I don't know why we're getting away from that, but that is definitely what got me to where I am. I was somebody, as I told Pastor Moten, that grew up Kojic, So I was in church Sunday, the Sunday school, the first Sunday, the first service, the second service, the evening service, then Wednesday for choir rehearsal, and then Bible study, and then Saturday for Girl Scouts, right? So all that made a difference. Because again, who you're around the majority of the time, you'll start to sound like them. Have you ever hung around somebody for like 3 days? And it's like, why am I holding my mouth like that? I never used to do that until I started hanging around this person. You know what I'm talking about. So just being immersed around good people really helped me, because I'm not gonna lie to you. Now that I'm, in my 30s, I'm from Atlanta, so I see my hood or the area where I'm from on these music videos, and it looks so crime ridden, and I'm like, really? Yeah. But it is. But I guess my parents did a good job of shielding me from that, and I wasn't sheltered by far. Yeah. I mean, I grew up in Southwest Atlanta, right down the street from all the things T.I. and Lil Baby and Future. I grew up around that, but they did a good job of like putting me in the right places at the right time. And exposing me to things outside of the classroom. And I want to say this, parents, if you're not doing that, you can't leave it up to the teacher, because the teachers are already burnt out. Yeah. And the teacher can't be the parent, the social worker, the nurse, the pastor. Yeah. And I mean, we're going to do that, right? Because I remember when I was a teacher, I would be praying for the kids and taking the kids home and taking them to get ice cream on Saturday. And it's a lot. But I think if children are our future and these are the people that are going to be our leaders, all of us owe it to them to do something for them. And that is like how I grew up. I mean, church was a big deal. We weren't scared of our neighbors. So, I mean, all the neighbors knew who I was. All the neighbors had full authority to call if something was going on. Maybe not whoop me. I'm not that old school. We weren't that old school, but at least address me. At least give me that look. Or right. I'm going to call your mama, right? And it actually meant something.
I was old school.
Yeah.
So they would whoop me and then get home and get another whooping.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's the old school.
Right.
I'll share this story before we go to the next question. I remember in the 10th grade, and we're older by this point, we all decided to tell our parents we were going somewhere, but instead we went somewhere else or somebody's house, and the mom was like, wait, y'all not supposed to be here. And she called our parents one by one. I'm like, how could you do that? But she and my mom weren't even that close, but it was just that understanding that moms had back then, or at least in that area, that I got to make sure that if my kid is good, your kid is good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Staci, can you tell us a little bit about the scope of the position of a state board of education member?
Yes, and that's something that I feel like I'm going to have to talk about a lot, because what I learned on the campaign trail is that a lot of people never heard of that. So the State Board of Education is one entity of three main entities of education in Texas. So the main entity you probably have heard of is the Texas Education Agency, or TEA. That's who administers STAR, who tells you what you can and can't do for students in Texas. And then you have the SBEC, which is who certifies educators. They determine, like, this is what you need to do to become a certified teacher. And then finally, you have the SBOE. So all three of those entities work together for teachers and students in education in Texas. What we do is we approve or deny new charter schools coming into different districts in Texas. And we help the education commissioner determine what the funds in the permanent school fund would be used for, or the investments in the permanent school fund. And we really just support TEA with the curriculum that's implemented in Texas. So I'm sure you guys have heard, and I guess we could talk about that now, a lot about is Black or Latinx history going to be taught in schools or not? And if it is going to be taught, to what extent is it going to be taught? Right. Well, the SBOE does have some say-so in that. So curriculum, charter schools, permanent school fund are the main areas of the SBOE. Okay. Another thing that the SBOE can do, and they should do more of, is provide comments to the state legislators in their session about what they want to see done. Because the state legislators have some control over public education. Okay. I would say about the same or more than we do. But since we are the SBOE members, we need to be doing our job to let them know this is what our constituents want and this is what we want. This is under your control. so we can provide comments to them. Like, for example, for me, if mental health is not a bigger deal in schools, I'm just going to blow a gasket.
Right.
I'm just going to be so upset. I'm just so tired of it being like a topic that we just say and we're not doing anything about it. But the legislature has the funds to allocate resources towards mental health in schools, not the SBOE. We don't really handle taxpayer money, you know, so those are the things that are within the SBOE scope.
Okay. Okay. Well, since you mentioned, you know, we can go ahead and get straight into the, you know, what is your position on charter schools and vouchers?
So, I don't believe in vouchers. I mean, that's just something that I think we should get away from. But in terms of public charter schools, I have a view that may be a little different from old school folks. And it may be a lot different from old school Black folks, which is, if you've had I'm 34, right? Okay. If you've had ABC Elementary School in your hood for 34 years, and ABC Elementary School has been an F-rated school for 30 or a D-rated school for 34 years, why would you say something if this charter school wants to come and help the students in your hood? Why would you have something negative to say about that, right? So for me, I am not against public charter schools where it's free for kids to go. It's not a lottery, it's not a voucher system. I am not against that because I have seen that some of my students who went to a traditional public school will go to KIPP or they'll go to Yes Prep. And it's not that they're just blowing things out of the water, but they change for the better. And it's not just something that you can quantify with their grades. I can see a change from the inside out. I just do. I'm going to tell y'all another story. I wrote a book. It's called Her Beautiful Day. It's a children's book. And this is not I know public school teachers and staff are inundated with so much stuff, right? But I sent probably 100 messages to schools and HISD about wanting to read the book to kids. No strings. I just want to read the book to kids. That's it. I got one response. One. I sent a message to a few charter schools. They all responded. So then I'm like, okay, I get on the Zoom with the kids at this one particular charter school. They're standing up, sitting up, jumping, screaming, excited, happy, asking questions, participating. I'm like, mind blown. Now, this is not to say that charter schools are 1,000% better, because if you look at the numbers, they're almost neck and neck. So charter schools can do better. If you are taking taxpayer money, you can do better. But they're doing some good stuff. They're doing good stuff. And I know that that may upset a lot of people who think that that's not doing nothing for the greater good. But to me, like I said in the beginning, if this same school has been here for this amount of years and it's still the same, we can't keep complaining about the lack of funds and nothing's being done. They are actually trying to do something. And I'm on board with that.
And that's, our household, our oldest son is product of Sheldon ISD.
Okay.
He, he's Sea King. He wanted to go to Sea King. And from my house, I was going to do whatever it took to make sure you're in the situation you want to be in. So we moved into Sheldon. So, Evan came along, the baby boy, he didn't want to go behind Tate. But he found a school that he sold in HISD. We moved into, because I'm going to do whatever it takes. And I think that's what we got to build the mindset of wherever our children feel most comfortable. Because education is already difficult enough. Like, so if that means you being at Yes Prep or KIPP or...
Yeah, that's another part of the whole charter school debate that may not be popular that I like. People that come from like poorer backgrounds or low income backgrounds have not had a choice of anything in their life. Nothing. Everything is like, you go in here, you go to this doctor, you get this insurance, you get a HMO. Everything is just like, this is your life. But finally we get to choose schools, and there's a problem. We deserve to choose. Even and I'm not saying charter schools are bad. I think they're good. But even if it end up being a bad choice, you deserve to choose. And I've met so many parents who feel so proud that their child gets to go to this school. And yes, my child is a student at Yes Prep, and they have these uniforms, and they're involved in these programs. And I rock with that. I like that. I like that. you know, if you're gonna, and you can attest to this, if you're gonna be a parent of a charter school, you have to have some level of involvement.
Yeah.
And that goes back to that piece about everybody being involved in education. If you're not answering the phone, and if you're not responding to their letters or bringing back signed documents at those schools, you're gonna have a problem.
Right.
And I like that for kids.
Right. So then you have the place isn't necessarily different. The building is not really, I mean, maybe you might have, you know, little slight differences in terms of architecture and design. You have basically a similar process. Still got desks, still sit down, still looking at the board or, you know, whatever. So if the difference isn't in the place and the difference isn't in the process, then in any organization, there's only one P left, and that's the people.
Yeah. I would say the people are just the I don't know if the word is morale, but just like the way they're trained too. Because I've never taught at a charter school, but I have friends that have taught at charter schools, and I've been to several charter schools over the past few years. And it seems as though their processes are a little more streamlined. And when I'm talking to teachers that are teachers of charter schools, they work longer hours actually, on average. They're working 1 to 2 hours longer than a traditional public school teacher, but they don't walk away feeling as unsupported as teachers of traditional public schools. It's like, I don't know how to do this, but my principal assigned me up for this professional development and this professional development and this one. And then I have this mentor and they're going to follow up with me in 2 weeks and I better have the lesson down pat. That's what I'm hearing. So, yeah.
And that's what I was curious is it a recruitment issue? Do we have an issue? Okay, so Jack Welch was one of the greatest CEOs, and he developed a system. And I'm not saying I agree with him. I'm just giving you something to think about. He developed a system called Rank and Yank. And basically, every employee was ranked by their peers on a scale, and they terminated 15 to 20% of the workforce every year. It was a very brutal environment. The point is that tenure meant absolutely nothing in this company.
Okay.
It was irrelevant. Everything was about performance. Is that getting in the way of our children's education? Tenure, the way we're doing it, because that's the way we've done it. One of the most dangerous phrases in any organization is we've always done it this way.
We've always done it this way.
Is that a problem that we have in traditional public schools and our charter schools having some degree of success because it's new blood?
Good question. I'm gonna push back a little bit and say that there's a lot of goodness in older veteran teachers because they're almost extinct. And there's just something about a veteran teacher that's in her groove and she's still passionate about education.
Yes.
That's just, you can't pay for that. Like it's just invaluable. But yeah, other than those teachers, those few teachers that are becoming extinct, some of these teachers, now you know you ain't been teaching for 10 years. Now, you know you ain't changed your lesson plan in 10 years.
Right.
And honestly, what's unfortunate is that, well, it's not unfortunate. The world is changing.
Right.
The world is changing, and education needs to go toe-to-toe with how the world is changing. If kids want to stay on their phone and scroll through TikTok, your lesson better be TikTok the whole way through. To me, that's just to me. The kids better know the code of the TikTok, the history of it, who the founder is, how you can buy stock in it. Like, the world is ever changing, so should education.
Right.
And I think, you know, some teachers are not with that. They don't think that is the wave. But I think with charter schools too, because they're newer on average, they have a sense of like morale and school culture that sometimes may be lacking in a traditional public school. Not all the time.
Correct.
But sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I've never, and now I'm thinking different.
Is it baking your noodle a little bit?
It is, because I mean, of course, you know, I almost like anything. I equate anything to, you know, church. That's what, you know.
Right.
So in this generation, we do have to reimagine church life, just like we should be reimagining education and how we educate our children, because the world is evolving. You know, it's, you know, things are just changing. And then when you're new, you're a risk taker.
Right.
So you don't have that history of we've always done it this
Right.
way. So you like, okay, this is working. If it's not working, let's find something that does work. While older, schools are like, hey, since we've done it like this, let's keep doing it like
But
this.
I think like older teachers, if you're going to be changing stuff, you have to support them. Like you can't just expect them to know how to work all of this stuff and not support them. So I think older teachers will start to resent administrators and higher ups for making them do all these different things and not giving them the professional development necessary to rise and embrace that climb.
Right.
But we need them too, because of being a first or a second year teacher is hard. Like I at least saw 20 people quit when I was a first year teacher, and I get it.
Oh yeah.
And like I said, by the time you hit year 5 in teaching, that's like really like, oh, you can't tell me nothing. Like, I'm teaching, everybody's quiet. Johnny's over there, my co-teacher.
Right.
I mean, I could walk out and go to Starbucks and come back, and y'all still doing your work, right? So there's value in the older teachers. I just don't think we're valuing teachers enough, but especially the older ones.
And full disclosure, my wife is going into her 10th year as a teacher of record.
Yeah.
She's a high school English teacher in your district. So, and she's one of the ones that I feel has that veteran, for lack of a better term, bedside manner. The kids really respond to her, but also at the same time, she knows what she's doing and she has innovative methods to get a good result. But we have to appreciate those teachers, otherwise they're going to enter into other fields of human endeavor.
Right.
I hate that like teachers aren't making more, and I saw the HISD.
I hate that too.
They just approved that teachers will make a little more. It's a good step in the right direction.
Yeah.
But why aren't teachers making $100,000 a year?
Yeah.
Why not? I say that sometimes people are like, I'm like, they should be. If you saw what teachers had to do.
Oh yeah,
like good grief,
because it's not done when the bell rings.
Right.
And I think but teaching,
it's not over.
When you are really actually doing the job, it's a beautiful thing to do. I miss teaching so much. I do. I really do. And I think if we were valuing teachers more, it would attract the right people to the profession, which is part of what I want to do in this platform.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, since we, because I want, my desire, I want to see you extremely successful. So, Jesus, and I think, and I think one of what I look at my life and like, the things that got me here, and I ain't, I'm nowhere, but the things that got me here, it's like people saying, okay, what can I do to help? And that, and again, I think a lot of times, especially in our culture, and if I don't know any other area, I know Northeast Houston, so, and I know a lot of, we send people, to office and we'll empower them. And then we'll say, they didn't do this. They didn't do that. I want you to tell us what we need to do to help you be as successful as you need to be. Yeah. I mean, whatever that is. Cause again, like, I know our generation is, our culture they need to do this. They need to do that. Or they didn't do this. Well, what did you do to help them?
Right. Help us help you.
Right.
Well, very short term, I am going to be hosting a back to school drive on August 13th. And I really need help with that because that's 1 month today. And I'm kind of starting from scratch. So I would like your help with that. But on a more long-term basis, this is going to sound cliche, but it's true. We're not voting. And it's scary, right? There are 15 people on the State Board of Education, 4 Democrats. And I don't know if you guys are Democrat or Republican. I'm just going to say maybe you're Democrat.
Yeah.
So 4 Democrats. And how will we ever get a majority? But then there are more Democrats in Texas. So how is it that how does that math even work out when there are more of us physically present in the state that can vote? That are even registered to vote.
The math ain't math.
We're not talking about, and people say, well, that's because people can't vote. No. I'm talking about registered voters. There are more of us.
Right.
So how is it that our agendas and what we want is not happening? It's because we're not voting.
Absolutely.
And if what would make my heart smile is if we could do something with children or something in your community with educating people on the importance of voting. And I know that sounds cliche, but we have to do it in a different way. I went to at least 40 super neighborhood civic club meetings. Everybody was 50, 60 plus. Everybody. I was even say 60 plus. And you had a few younger people, but on average, 60 plus. Why? And I didn't know about a lot of that stuff growing up. That needs to change.
Right.
I will not sit here and believe that only people 60 plus care about their community.
Yeah.
Ain't no way I'm going to accept that.
Well, I think you're positioned well because you do have a social media presence.
Yeah.
And I think that that's going to help because everybody is on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Their face is in some kind of screen. And if the only time you hear about voting is after the weather report.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think we're becoming, and Benton said it a few weeks ago, we're becoming that garage door society.
Yeah.
We don't know our neighbors.
Right.
We shut the garage door and that's it. That, instead of much like it was when I was growing up, like the street knew. Right. Knew.
That's how you had a block party.
Absolutely.
Because everybody on the block knew each other. Yeah.
And then again, like I volunteered on Beto O'Rourke's campaign when he was running for state senator against Ted Cruz. And I saw some numbers that made me go home and cry. Like less than, 60 or 70% of our community even voted in that election. And he was close to winning, but we just didn't give him the type of support that he needed. You're talking about houses with 20 people registered, 20 people in them, and 2 people went to the polls. And so we did from the pews to the polls. Every organization that I was a part of, we pushed voting. And that's something I think that we're just going to have to push year round and not just during election seasons.
Yeah. And I think another thing is the presidential campaigns. People feel like that's the big one. So that's the big one. Not realizing that more of the politics that affects your life happens locally.
Yeah,
that's true. I have so many things to say that I don't want to lose all my trains of thought. It's true that local elections matter more, but why is it that when people, I guess my parents' age, they said, I'm voting regardless because this is what my
the straight ticket
fought for.
The straight ticket.
Just like I'm going to vote regardless. Like even if it's not straight ticket though. Like I'm going to vote regardless because this is my civic duty.
Right.
I think it's because of the lack of education around what happened in our history, which is why we lost that. But obviously we're going back to that. So there needs to be something done around teaching young people, 17-year-olds, and the importance of just go. Even if you don't understand it. Like we'll teach it to you. Just go.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that will help. And we could get creative around that because what the internet is teaching us is that if you can't keep their attention for 5 to 7 seconds, they ain't listening.
Yeah. You lost them.
So we have to be creative around ways to make people excited to vote. But also, this journey is lonely.
Yeah.
It is. It's a lonely journey. So I would say, how can you help me and people like me? Just reminding people that take this leap of faith that they're not alone, that they're supported. If you see stuff happening to them on social media, just standing up for them because when other people see that, it'll inspire them to run. And it'll inspire them to get more excited. Because for years I've thought about this, maybe not this particular role, but I've thought about this path and I'm like, oh, no way. No way. Because I wouldn't be able to take it until I felt God say, no, you gonna do it. And I was like, okay, we'll try. And I felt like I was almost like, I hope I lose. I was that scared. You know how they say you're scared of your own success or whatever that is? But now I'm like, okay, we're here.
Now I gotta do it.
And I just, of course, I want to too.
Now I gotta do it.
I want to too, but it's just like, it can be a very lonely road. So I just ask that you support not just me, but anybody who's passionate enough and who is brave enough to go down this path.
Earlier, we had a conversation about technology, and you brought up the point about supporting veteran teachers, so that they can have the ability to work with technology maybe they don't interact with on a daily basis in their regular life. how will you make technology in District 4 equal to the schools in more affluent areas?
That's a good question. So my answer is it may be already getting there. It may not be a technology gap. It's an awareness gap. And I will say, like during COVID, right? I remember where some of my former students were getting laptops and chargers. Some of their parents were even getting things. They all had internet access, but nobody knew how to use the stuff. And no one knew how to access the portals. So I think I'm going to be advocating for more awareness around the use of technology. But besides that, I think we need to be pushing the state legislature on more funding around technology because that's where we're headed. But for me, I think before we're even going to get down the funding route, we need to know how to use these different systems that are on the computers. Because I've had even parents tell me, I actually want to engage with my student on whatever she's doing, but I don't know how to do it. And that can make a parent feel disempowered. And I mean, we already don't have a lot of parents participating as it is. So we don't want technology to stand in the way of that. So for me, it's about the awareness and pushing as many people as possible to provide that technology gap for students and parents.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Our community needs it. Whatever we need to do to, make equal education for Black and brown bodies. Because again, we're already, behind the 8 ball, so to speak. So, it's just, and I can't wait to, I know my oldest is tired of hearing your name now. Now the baby boy has to hear your name. Because like he's at Wiley. And so he's,
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's
favorite movie is about Wiley.
Yeah, but he's, I want to transfer, kind of, I'm like,
stay at Wiley.
Yeah, but a lot of our children think that the grass is greener.
Yeah,
and so but to be in areas where they see Black excellence, I think is important too. And so it's just a matter of getting them there. And so I think a lot of times, our kids don't even get that, in their heads because K through 12 is so difficult for them. And so if technology helps, that help, whatever we can do to help our kids.
I have a question for you guys about that. So when you guys were growing up, were you taught to, go get your education and help your community? Or were you taught like, go get your education and then make a life for yourself and put your family in an area where it's safe? How were you guys taught to navigate like the rest of your lives?
Now, from a home perspective, I'm a PK.
Okay.
So, my daddy was, others first, always, But, at school, and when you start talking about careers at schools, like, what do you want to be? Well, everybody looked at what makes you the most money.
Yep.
Because that's what our drive was, capitalist society, we're always money driven. And then it didn't even click to me until after spending some time on the yard at TSU, where my mind was just like, let me find a passion. And if I find my passion, I'll never work a day in my life.
Right.
And I don't know how preaching came up, but
right.
Ultimately, God's will was done. But in the house it was help others, but outside it was, chase the bag.
Right. So similar for me. And we had, different educational experiences. Yeah. The first public school that I went to was the University of Houston. Pre-K through 12, private school education, so on and so forth. The private school was in Acres Homes, but hey, it was still a private school.
Hey, I went to
St. Pius X High School,
that's awesome.
off of Shepherd and Donovan.
Okay.
And so that's 2003. But so I was raised in that type of environment. And so again, at home, the idea is, hey, go grow, become who you are, and be of service. You can't be a useful person if you're never used, if you don't do anything. So from the home perspective, service was a big thing. But also at the same time, capitalist society, and let's just face the facts. Every school that we've all been to, we get a letter every so often from the Alumni Association wondering if we've become tremendously successful, gotten rich, and would you send us some of that money? So
underwriting.
Right. The underwriting. Exactly. Yes, the underwriting. So that's the deal. It's like, hey, grow up, be somebody. But in my context, being that I didn't go to a school in my neighborhood, it was, hey, go out there and be somebody. And then whatever you do, represent the school well, and we'll see you at the reunion. So, so a little bit different context.
And this, I guess the sad part is, and I guess in this generation, I try to push that to even the kids at the church. It's like, you don't want to climb the ladder of success and then find out your ladder was leaning on the wrong building.
Right.
Like what is your aim? What is your goal? Because again, you can chase money, or you can chase your passion and let money chase you.
Right.
Like, so again, it's like, that's why I fell in love with Staci from the beginning, because it's like, be a help, be of what is I can't think of her name. Service is the rent you pay for the space you occupy. Be a.
I thought Martin Luther King said that.
Was it? It was no. It was. I can't. Yeah. It's my 50. I got sometimes it's my. It's my near 50 moment.
I can't call it.
But yeah, I mean, just be of help, and I know it, but that's not common in this society.
Yeah, that's why
everybody's chasing the bag.
One thing. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I was just gonna say, like, for example, one of my old students, she responded, "Oh, Staci, da da da." Some of these students just need to be exposed to things.
I agree.
They won't be headed down the wrong path if they're just exposed to, oh, you went through that too, and you from here too. Can you show me the way too? And that will like change the community from the inside out. But I can't fault people that don't come back, because it's like, I was told to get mine and make sure I'm safe.
Yeah. Right.
I'm not trying to necessarily die over helping the community. So that's why I asked, how were y'all brought up? Because I think that's a huge disconnect that I think will solve a lot of our issues.
Yeah.
So just to share, in terms of, lived experience, and at my high school and then in Bible college, we had to do something called Christian service learning, which was basically they were teaching us the value of volunteerism. And so I think that was really impactful. I don't think that's done in public schools, but literally that was required. You couldn't graduate. You could have everything, but if you did not have this Christian service learning project done, you will not get a degree. Does that make sense? And that was both in high school and in Bible college. So I think that was valuable. And so that instilled from an institutional aspect the same thing that was already being instilled from being raised at home. So I'm not sure if that has an impact to it, but I thought about that when you talked about being exposed. And so how often are our children being presented with the opportunity to serve others? Because everything in the culture is saying, get all you can all you get, and sit on the can.
Absolutely.
That's the deal. So maybe there's something that we need to do that introduces service at a younger age.
Them to service. And even that's that's something that we can collaborate on as well. Expose them to something other than what they see.
Yeah.
Right.
Like a lot of kids don't aspire for anything different because they don't see anything.
They don't see it.
That's it.
They
really
without a vision, people perish.
Yeah.
So
we see the school around the corner, the park on the corner, the church on the corner. We come back to the house. Then when you start talking about higher schools of education, it's like like really what?
That's not for me.
It's life.
Right.
Like my mother lives here, my auntie lives here, like everybody's around. Like, so there's no, I remember talking to a young man who befriended my son, who's doing great, like Montavious, great job. Like he's doing great right now. And so he all through high school, he's like, Pops, I'm not going to school. Like, Monte, you gotta go to school. I'm going to make you go.
Right.
School ain't for me. How you know? You ain't never been there.
Right.
You're going to school. And that's how I tell their boys. That's how I tell them, bro, you going to school.
Right.
So he went to Lamar, graduated, is about to get his master's, just got married not too long ago, whatever. Like he's doing great. Matter of fact, he's teaching in school now.
Nice.
You know, doing great with his life, whatever. Like we would go places. He's like, you know, restaurant. Pops, I've never been here, or you know, whatever. Yeah, Pops, I've been in Louisiana. That's it. Like, you know, and I'm like, what would happen to just their imagination if we allowed them to see more? And so one of the things I thought about, even with the church that I want to do, maybe we can do it. Like just put them on a bus and take them to, you know, let's go see some school campuses. Maybe you'll aspire to go to school.
Yeah, we did. I mean, that was the thing. Like, we had time off.
Yeah.
They were like, hey, go do these visits. We did in 8th grade to visit high schools. We did in high school in 12th grade to go visit universities.
Right.
And in my particular case, our school literally made time for that. Like that was scheduled.
Right.
That was, we are going to collectively go to the University of Houston. We're going to go to TSU. We're going to eat at Frenchie's, and we're going to
right.
We're going to head back to campus.
Get some good fried chicken and take you back. Yeah.
There you go. Boom, boom, pow.
Yeah.
So, but see, that's something that in a public school, I don't know how that would work. You see what I'm saying?
There are avenues. I mean, I'm going to ask you this one thing. I'm going to let you go, but I'm going to ask you this one.
Oh, no.
So one of my biggest issues, because one of the things I want the church to do, we're trying to, you know, adopt our local school. I want to be, you know, part of the process of, you know, getting these kids uniforms if they need it or supplies if they need it. And then being a part of stabilizing their lives, because a lot of these kids live in bad situations. Like, you know, of course, most of our children, and you know, where I pastor and where I grew up, you know, Northeast Houston, you know, Mesa, Tidwell, it's, you know, poverty-stricken, you know, area. So most of these kids come to school ready to fight because they're hungry. You know what I'm saying? Is it?
Right.
And so, and then once they do fight at school, because of these new, you know, structure settings now their family that's already trying to make ends meet or at least wave at each other now has to spend money they don't have to defend some legal, and it was just a school, you know, and so like, I know, and it's a heavy influx of SROs now and all of that, whatever. Like, what part can a community do to help mitigate those things for those families that just really, you know, that are already stretched thin? So,
every school, at least in HISD, should have a parent or community liaison. And I had you got like a wraparound specialist, and I had that role many years ago at a school in Atlanta. And you all need to connect with that person, because that person is the gatekeeper to everything as it relates to a kid and food, clothing, shelter, counseling, mental health, anything, you know. So I would say connect with the wraparound specialist or the parent liaison. Outside of that, really presence.
Yeah.
I remember I was teaching at one school in Sunnyside, and there were some deacons and a pastor at the church next door that would come every Tuesday. And that was just so shocking to me. I'm like, they come every Tuesday right before lunch to read to the students. And I loved it. And the kids loved it. I don't really see that. Like, just presence alone would diffuse 90% of this stuff. Like, if they knew that 2 pastors were going to be standing at the corner right here every week, you would see nothing happen on that hallway. You know, and I understand, you know, there's a vetting process. You have to get background checks, and people are scared because of this and that. But go through it. It's worth it.
Right.
Go through the process so that you can be a part of the school. So I would say presence alone would remedy a lot of that.
That's happening in Louisiana. There's a group called Dads on Duty.
Oh, see?
Dads on Duty, where basically you have these fathers of the children in some level of high school, and they all get together and work out a schedule, and there's like 8 or 10 of these dads every day on campus, and just in the hallways.
Yeah, you don't have to not being scary. Just
you know what I'm saying?
Right.
What's up, man? How you doing?
How you doing?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Or like somebody looking down, hey man, keep your head up, everything good, da da da. I mean, just the presence of fathers on campus, and like grades have gone up.
Yep.
The disciplinary issues have gone down. just the simple fact that somebody's dad is on duty every day.
I'm going to, because there's a couple alliances on our side of town, ministerial alliances, and I'm gonna pitch it to them to see if they could, because again, like we could talk about what the problem is. We got to be a part of the solution.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm definitely gonna get on that, and then those alliances can help me help Staci with her back to school giveaway. So
Which alliances are we talking about?
Yes. So Northeast Harris County Ministers Alliance, Roland Robinson. If I call you, don't decline my phone call.
I'm about to say Roland Robertson mad at me right now. I ain't
he'll be all right. He'll get over it.
He mad at me, but
he'll get over it.
It's all right. Forgiveness. We got to have it.
Montori Morrison. If I call you, don't decline my phone call. Pastor Gilbert. I'll get with Pastor Gilbert. Max Miller. I'll get with Max Miller as well. And let's do our
Houston
part.
Met and Houston vicinity.
Yeah. I really want this.
Let's do our part.
My vision for this back to school drive is to be like huge.
Yeah.
I know it's a month away, but I still feel like it can be done. Where parents and students are like, "This is for us,
right?
Well, just for you." So,
matter of fact, when we
make sure to send us the information so we can put it in the description. Of the video. Yeah, all that good stuff.
And then matter of fact, I'm gonna get on the horn because there's I sat through a meeting the other day. There's a lot of community pastors that are Johnny Gentry, right there in Homestead. So there's a lot of community pastors that'll help. We'll pull together. We'll make it. Or make it.
Put some paint where it ain't.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So is it anything else that you got going on that you might want us to know about?
As you guys may or may not know, this weekend is the Democratic Party's state convention in Dallas. So I'll be traveling there. So just, say a prayer or two for me. They do have a session on CRT and race in education and history in schools. And that's really like what I'm most passionate about in terms of my platform. So
we might need you to come back. That's a whole episode right there.
I know.
CRT.
Yeah. So that's what got me over the hump to like run. I'm like, no, we got to do something about it.
Right.
So I'll be there for a day or a day and a half. But other than that, just a back to school drive. And just making sure that my mental health is okay.
Absolutely.
Because, like I said in the beginning, running for office and putting yourself out there and being that vulnerable is unmatched in terms of difficulty. So I've been spending the last few weeks trying to get myself back together. So just keep me in prayer.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. And we'll keep you covered in prayer. And I'm another one of my old men moments. And I'm super, super proud of you.
Thank you.
Super proud of you. I again, I said, which I, was losing my hope in, the next generation. When the first thing that I see when I wake up in the morning, I have this thing on the wall in my bedroom. And it's a picture and it says, "Wise men plant shade trees, they'll never sit under." And so, and I want my entire life to be about, making sure the next generation is, is okay. And then I see, somebody who's younger than me doing the same thing. It's like, it restores the hope that we have in our culture to do for, each other. And so I'm super, super proud of you. Whatever I can do to help is done. We're a phone call away. Know that you have fans in Northeast Houston, expressly at the Restoration Church. So Paula Edwards is forever talking about how much she adores you. And so just know that we're in your corner no matter what, and we'll do whatever we can to help. And so there's some any upcoming events.
I don't think so. I think we just got done with a lot of events. We just got done with a lot.
It's summertime, and then we got
summertime.
Some other stuff.
So because we're actually taking a break. We do have on Wednesday, the last Wednesday of the month, we do have a guest coming in. So that is on the 27th. So 2 weeks from now, we have Pastor Darren Moore. He's from the True Vine Baptist Church in Spring. he's going to be with us at Good Shepherd.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Okay.
so he's going to be Wednesday night at 7:00. So that'll be a treat. Looking
Okay.
forward to that.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
we do have that one coming up.
That same Wednesday during the day, I'll be with the Lincoln District during the day at their 11:00. So, and again, I'm going to do my best to galvanize as much community support, and let's help Staci with her back to school drive. Y'all, please. I don't never ask nobody for nothing. Y'all, please help me. And let's make this a success for her, and then galvanize our community, and let's enjoy this time of revival. Is what it is. It's been a long time, so I think since we've been at a place like this, and so let's get behind each other and help make this time and space special. So again, if there's, I don't think there's anything else that I'm missing. As a community, we'll be together 5th Sunday in July, celebrating with Lions Unity and Pastor Benton, marriage of pastor and people. So I'm looking forward to that as well. And again, November, let's start pushing now, galvanizing each other to get to the polls and vote. So I'll get with Pastor Skinner and some other pastors in the community. We'll do what we always do, the pews to the polls, whatever. We'll put together whatever we need to help make this season of our community life very special. So again, wherever you are in Houston, keep your ears and eyes open, whatever you hear about events to get us out to the polls to vote. Let's do that. Not just for Staci, but for all of our elected officials. Let's do whatever we can to help them. And if you're not going to do what you can to help them, don't say what they didn't do when they were in office. Because that is the pushback of our people. And then know what your elected official has the capacity to do.
Yes.
Sheila Jackson Lee is not responsible for your water bill.
Right.
And neither am I.
Yeah. Right.
Disclaimer.
Right. So let's know the capacity, and then let's help them reach their full potential. And again, thank you so much, Staci.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. I know she's super busy, but I want to thank her. And again, let's get together and help her. And all of the upcoming things will be attached to the video at the bottom. If you're on, Apple Podcasts, it'll be attached as well. So, again, let's take this time to look out for each other, help each other, assist each other as we try to build our community back up from where it is now to where we desire it to be. So, if there's nothing else, grace and peace, and we'll see you guys next week on another episode of the TBT Show. Until then, watch over each other. See you next week.